Hello and welcome to today's webinar on how is iSIM shaping a new future in mobile and IoT connectivity. My name's Jeremy Cowan and I'm co-founder of IoT Now, and it's a real pleasure to be your moderator today. Thank you for joining us around the world for this webinar, which is brought to you with our partners Nokia and with independent analysis from Counterpoint Research. It's forecast that by 2025, the total number of eSIM and iSIM-capable devices worldwide is expected to reach almost 6 billion. So what's triggering this boom and why now? Well, demand for out-of-the-box global connectivity and the built-in resilience of these new technologies means a new approach is needed by CSPs and enterprises. It's expected that secure mobile and IoT identities will bring large-scale digital growth underpinned by iSIM technology. So today, we're going to hear what this means for players that want to build global solutions with the highest levels of security assurance. We'll hear about the Nokia approach to helping customers benefit from the opportunities brought by SIM transformation. And to find out how this can benefit you, let me introduce you to our hugely experienced speakers in order of their appearance. Neil Shah is Vice President for Devices and Ecosystems at Counterpoint Research. Good to have you here, Neil.
Thank you for inviting.
And I'm delighted to say hello to Nokia's Cloud and Network Services Product Manager, Thomas Su. Welcome, Thomas.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Great to have you both here. Now, don't forget, everyone, as usual, this webinar is being recorded. And from tomorrow, you can access the audio and slides at iot-now.com. Our webinars are always an information exchange. We really like to learn what you're thinking. So in a few moments, we'll be asking for your views in our quick poll. And finally, I'll be putting your questions to Neil and Thomas after their presentations. So you can start sending me your questions right now. Just click on the icon marked Show Sidebar at the right of your black screen. And this will bring up a white area showing you questions and polls option. You can type your question in there and you can begin doing that right now. You can do it at any time during the event, which will run for about an hour. And we'll discuss as many of your questions as we can at the end. And of course, if you're having any technical issues with audio or slides, you can also use the question window to get help from our tech support team. So the first thing to do is have our poll. And if you click on polls, you will see a question there, which we would love you to answer. Remember, it's all confidential. We can't see how any of you vote. All we see is the total results. And if you want to see the results too, as they come in, you'll need to answer for yourself. So click on your chosen option. The question being, have you begun your investment process in eSIM or iSIM related projects and services for IoT? And when you've clicked on it, just submit your vote and we'll start to see the results from our audience globally flooding in. We have a big audience today, and I'm really pleased to say we're going to be getting a very interesting real-time view about how eSIM or iSIM is being taken up. So the question is, under the poll, have you begun your investment process in eSIM / iSIM related projects or services for IoT? And we're already starting to see an interesting result there, as you'll know if you've replied. The predominant answer here, and it's not to me a huge surprise, but maybe I'm missing something. We haven't started planning yet is the answer from about 45%. It's fluctuating a little, but it's around the 45% mark. And 22% say that they have already launched eSIM or iSIM related projects or services. That's more significant. Neil, is that in line with your expectations?
Sort of, because the market is taking off, and I think especially in IoT space, there is a lot of room for growth, and we'll hear about it more.
So, yeah. Thomas, are you surprised by these results, or is this exactly what you expected?
That's similar to what I have been seeing as I'm talking to various analysts and customers.
Yeah, yeah. Well, there's just under 40% now showing that they haven't started planning yet, and 24% saying they've already launched, 17% saying that they've started planning and are looking for partners, 10% in the early stages of RFP. So there's real progress being made. Anyway, I find that fascinating. We can come back to that, keep a watch on that during the event, because as more people answer it, we'll get a real-time view. In the meantime, I want to hand over to the main event. That's the presentations. Neil, first, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me here to share insights on how the ecosystem is developing. So first of all, I would like to thank all of you, and also make sure every one of you is safe and healthy. So what we are going to talk about today, as Jeremy nicely laid out for everyone, is how is the evolution of the SIM, and in terms of different form factors, right from the physical SIM to eSIM to iSIM, and what are the benefits it offers, and what is the traction at ecosystem level? Are we ready? Is the ecosystem ready, mature? Are the solutions ready and mature, and so forth? And what are the different opportunities for CSP enterprises? So without further ado, I'll jump into the first slide. So if you look at the last 2.5 decades since the cellular, I would say, the cellular evolution began, the connected devices actually are the forefront of driving innovation. Without the connectivity is that glue, which is actually driving all the different communication, as well as I would say content consumption, creation, everything, right from the component, from the devices to the cloud. So if you look at what has happened since 1991 to almost what will happen by end of 2025, we have seen a significant evolution of cellular connected devices. It's not just smartphones, but other devices as well. But for the first 2 decades, it has always been about personal transformation. It has been about the mobile phone. So until 2010, 2015, you would see the majority of the growth, what you have seen, is by mobile phones and a little bit of M2M. But majority it's mobile phones and smartphones. And as the form factor of these devices have changed over the last couple of decades, even the glue, which is the connectivity, and the SIM card, which actually the subscriber identity module, which connects the device to the network, the form factor for that particular module, subscriber identity module, has also changed. So we have started from a 1FF to almost now a physical plastic SIM card going down to 4FF. It's almost 1/3 in size right now. But since then, what we have seen since 2015, rise of embedded SIM, where the SIM card actually is like a small chip soldered onto the PCB of the device. And what it has done is, it is not only secure, but it has given flexibility to the operators, to the device manufacturers, even to the consumers, to have multiple profiles and connect to different networks, and provision the particular SIM card remotely, basically, and at a very low cost, and saving a lot of logistics and other costs for operators and everyone. But what has happened is the device form factors continue to evolve. And as we are seeing the deluge of IoT devices, connected IoT devices, those devices are power hungry. They're most probably low power. If they're low power connected devices using LP1 technologies, and you will see every cent for those particular devices is important. So even the space in terms of millimeter square is very important. It is at premium. So there comes a newer form factor of SIM card, which is iSIM or integrated SIM. The SIM is integrated within the SoC securely in a secure enclave into the device. And what that does is it's directly a IUICC OS, which directly goes into the system on chip. And so there is no physical extra SIM chip soldered onto the device or a physical SIM card. It's directly into the SoC. So we'll see the benefits, what it brings to the ecosystem in the next few slides. But the key takeaway is, with the number of connected devices growing with different form factors, right from smartphones to IoT devices, we are seeing a significant change in how devices are connected, activated, and provisioned. And iSIM is at the center of this. Let's see how if the ecosystem is ready in terms of eSIM. And obviously, in the last 3 years, we have seen significant progress. More than 200 operators are already supporting eSIM. They have eSIM management platforms to activate, provision, load profiles onto the eSIM-based devices. On an average, around one operator is supporting, on an average, 20 plus consumer devices. So on the right, you see all the consumer devices, right from iPhones, Galaxy Notes to Apple Watches to the laptops and tablets. And on the left, you see the IoT devices, and most of the IoT devices are actually based on IoT modules. And these IoT modules basically are actually integrating iSIM or having an eSIM. And on an average, an operator is now supporting almost more than 35 IoT modules or IoT devices as a whole. And this number is going to almost double in terms of number of operators, as well as in terms of number of devices being supported over the next couple of years. So what are the benefits which iSIM brings to the ecosystem? It obviously builds upon all the benefits which we get from the embedded SIM, the soldered chip, which is roughly, I think, a few millimeters square, and whereas iSIM is directly stored inside and integrated into the SoC. So the best possible you will see benefits it offers is obviously ease of provisioning. And ease of provisioning is because you can do it remotely. It is done in a digital format directly from chip to the cloud, and it's pretty quick. Customer satisfaction is huge because customers don't have to go to the stores. The particular activation is done effortlessly. It saves time and money for the customers. At the same time, for the device manufacturers, it is a lot of savings in terms of bill of materials, in terms of power consumption. That is one of the biggest benefit when you see iSIM compared to the eSIM. Space savings, obviously, and also time to market, because it is directly integrated into the secure enclave of a chip like a Snapdragon 800 series chipset. And when you talk about opportunities for the operators or CSPs or enterprises, so obviously the number of devices which are growing beyond the smart devices, the IoT devices, now those can be activated effortlessly, and even the low cost and low power devices can be activated. So we have a new portfolio of devices which can be connected to cellular securely instead of connecting to maybe a Wi-Fi or a public hotspot. So new devices means new ARPU opportunities for operators. There's ARPU uplift as well. And when you look at the traveler market, which is a huge billion-dollar market, when there are different travelers which are coming on a particular small island, for example, and that particular CSP wants to capture revenue, then just with a iSIM service, it can capture those ARPU rather than a particular traveler roaming on its home network. So these are the basic benefits and opportunities. But I would say another big opportunity is in terms of scalability, because this is chip to cloud, and since it is embedded securely within the SoC, it can leverage all the capabilities of the SoC in terms of memory, in terms of speed, in terms of security as well, and it can be more personalized. So in future, you might not need. You can just use your biometrics on a phone, which is secured on the same secure enclave within the SoC to authenticate your SIM card and activate your SIM card. So you don't have to enter any passport, or any particular digital KYC. So it can done flawlessly with all this integration. And above all, the biggest benefit I see for iSIM is security again, because since it's based in SoC, it's tamper-proof, it's quite durable, and the root of trust is very strong compared to independent soldered chip or a physical silicon. So how do we forecast? What is the outlook for eSIM and iSIM adoption, right? So we expect, as Jeremy mentioned, like roughly 6 billion base eSIM-capable devices will be out in the wild by 2025 in terms of number of shipped devices. And obviously, smartphone will be one of the key drivers, and smartwatches would see the highest adoption. But the high growth areas segments would be like routers, CPEs, PCs, even IoT devices. But when you see in terms of mix of IUICC, or which is iSIM, or eUICC, which is physical chip-based eSIM, the growth for IUICC is quite high, and you'll see 41% of all the eSIM shipments within 2025 would be iSIM based, and this includes smartphones. Whereas when you look at just IoT segment and focus on IoT segment, we are going to see almost 2x growth in terms of number of shipments per year for cellular IoT devices from between 2021 and 2025. And currently, almost 28% of IoT devices shipped are capable of eSIM. And less than 1% almost this year would be sporting iSIM. When you fast forward to 2025, because of the tremendous benefits it offers, and the standardization process is also from GSMA and Trusted Connectivity Alliances, all the specs are finalized. There's a great opportunity for iSIM to penetrate even further. Almost 1 in 3 IoT devices shipped would have iSIM inside. And most of the categories where we see the growth for iSIM, the low-hanging opportunities obviously are like POS devices, utilities. Smartwatch will have one of the highest adoption. Drones, where space is at the constraint, the power is constrained. Asset tracking devices, telematics devices. These all different categories have significant scale. At the same time, significant need as well for low power or very secure connectivity as a SIM type solution. So when you look at all these opportunities in terms of IoT devices, which are driven by mostly move to LPWA type technologies, as well as 5G, and also in terms of automotive and vehicles, where we are seeing CV2X being a technology where vehicles can communicate with vehicles can communicate with the infrastructure. All these different infrastructure is based on cellular standard, and all these infrastructure devices will have modules, will have connectivity, which will be cellular, and all these devices can be activated remotely, digitally, and securely with iSIM. And when you get into the real 5G benefits technologies like network slicing, where you can have a slice for every particular application for maintaining a very high SLA, which is not possible before, which is the beauty of 5G network, we would see a growth of private wireless networks. And these 5G private networks will have, for example, let me give you an example. It's, for example, a BMW factory. A BMW can build its own 5G private network with help of the infrastructure vendors, and maybe it can also own its own spectrum. So BMW can have multiple IoT devices in its premises. So it can have a surveillance camera, it can have manufacturing robots, automation, forklifts, it can have different devices in warehouse, all can be connected securely via cellular module within those devices. And they could have sensors which could send data in terms of the positioning, in terms of the state, and also in terms of security. And all those can be remotely activated, provisioned easily with iSIM, and in a very cost-effective way, in a very power-efficient way. So I see there's a significant opportunity for iSIM in IoT, and to actually drive IoT to the next stage into digital transformation. So with this, I'll hand it over to Thomas, who will take us on the next benefits of iSIM from infrastructure point of view and the security point of view.
Hey, thanks, Neil. So let's talk about security. As Neil mentioned, security is one of the biggest things moving forward that we need to address. But with iSIM that's out there, since it's in the chip itself, you already have the benefit of the security. That's number one. Number two, with that, there could be additional use cases being generated, such as digital identity management, for example. And with that said, the GSMA and ETSI specification are also moving toward that direction as we speak. There's already some specs already came out. And this also give more demand because the chip to cloud scenario that Neil mentioned before, with that, is also going to help with the volume of devices because security, that's also stopping some of the services right now that can be enabled. So in order to move ahead with the so-called massive IoT scenario, that there will be a need for more efficient operation than what we have in the SIM operational scenario today. So what people are looking for is the future proof of this operations efficiency, and how do you easily scale. And if you are serving enterprise customers, there might be need for a true multi-tenancy to provide those kind of services to serve the enterprises from the CSP. And by streamlining, I'm talking about automation integration with the rest of the SIM operations, with the network, with IT, with the OSS, BSS, and those kind of scenarios that's required to really shorten the cycle of the operation. As for interoperability, folks are looking for a simplified testing scenario. Basically, any device, any network, and its connectivity can be done and can be onboarded with ease, and also shorten the cycle of the interoperability. And of course, with all that, you will help the CSPs to reduce the cost, and you'll have better time to market from that angle. So let's move into some of the challenges that's in the market today, and how well this iSIM can enable more enterprise segments moving forward. So here are some of the challenges that we see. Number one is efficiency and return of investment. And this is mainly due to the lifecycle management of the profiles. Right now, it is a little bit expensive, and it takes time to actually get things validated, and so the device can be onboarded. So this is one of the challenges the market is facing. The next one is time to market. And because of the devices and device features and how this need to be customized in the network between the network parameters, the SIM profiles, all those things have to be well tested and well validated before it can be onboarded. And this takes time. And the question is, how do we reduce the cycle of that? The other one is future proof. Is another key concern with various folks that we talk to. And the number one is scalability. The other one is performance. And the last one is automation. So, and keep track of everything that's happening in the industry. And it's a pretty fluid right now because the eSIM is mainly being on the market for the last few years from the adoption perspective. And the complexity is another another challenge everybody's facing. This is because the standardization with interoperability, and this was one of the bigger pain points in the last couple of years. And it's getting better, but I think there's more room to improve. And of course, the more we standardize, the more we can support interoperability and reduce the time to do interoperability testing between various systems as the device move from one environment to another environment. So how do we simplify this? If we look at this on a high level, if we had to say there's 3 things we can do right away. The first one is digitization. So what's happening today is a lot of things are done manually, and people actually pre-estimate how many eSIM they're going to deploy, or eSIM devices they're going to deploy, and have to pre-estimate and order the profiles, for example. And the question is, how can we digitize that? In the future, the digitization of that process, the entire life cycle of profile management is required. And the other one is, how do we integrate with various network elements that's supporting the mobility environment? For example, the billing system, the IT, and also the network itself. The other one is interoperability. The interoperability testing right now is pretty much manual, and there's also lack of end-to-end interoperability testing. With that, we mean is the connectivity plus the device testing. That's not quite consolidated at the moment. So moving forward, what's required is, how do we automate the interop testing, and how do we automate E2E IoT interop testing and validation with the device capabilities. And this will help enable a faster time to market. The last one is automation. In order for us to digitize the whole process, there will be a need for that. Today, there's a limited integration from the market, and also there could be errors because the lack of integration with certain systems that's out there. So the key here is find the right integration points and provide the integration associated to reduce errors and streamline the process. The other ones, there are things also have to be done post subscription itself. Once the subscription is enabled, there are things that have to be done. So how do we automate that? That's another challenge that we're facing today. So this slide describes about what the Nokia approach is all about. With Nokia, we bring the experience from the network perspective, and also OSS, BSS, including security and device management. So we see various integration points in this diagram. So the eSIM iSIM management solution in Nokia, we call it iSIM Secure Connect, and this provides the remote SIM provisioning. But there's opportunities to be connected or interconnected with the rest of the network elements that's out there that's supporting the 5G, even the mobility network today, to streamline the whole process. So with that said, this will able to enable the E2E scenario I talked about before, and this will find opportunities for streamlining the process. And of course, with this, you can see ways to automate the interoperability testing that I was talking about before. And the scalability itself, that will be, and also the performance and to support the massive IoT moving forward, and that's a must, right? As Neil mentioned, this will be doubled in the next couple of years at a minimum. And the other thing is there will be an ecosystem program to work with CSPs, with the device makers. And if anybody is in the space, that's a must. And lastly, the security. How do we drive security into this space? And how could we help enable various use cases by adding additional security on top of what we have right now in this market? So here's what we see in the next step in the evolution of iSIM. And let's talk about the transformation into the digital society, and also what I mean by rule of trust moving forward. So what we see, the next step with the evolution is enable digital society. Basically, with the iSIM as a chip, it's going to be pretty much everywhere, as you know of today. The cars, the mobile devices you carry, in the parking meters, in the trains, in various everything that you touch today, you see today, you're gonna see cellular connectivity moving forward. And in order to support this, you see a diagram on the bottom. So you see the devices, you see the IoT connectivity through mobile, and of course everything's connected through the core and the mobile network with 5G, network slicing, and even private network. They all require iSIM support moving forward. Then, of course, on top of it, you see the IoT applications. And in the middle of that whole chain, you require security. And security at the endpoint, at the network, at the device. All those things are required to enable more and more use cases moving forward. So just highlight a few things. The reliable connectivity, right? In various slices, how will the device jumping from a slice to a next slice? That's something need to be defined still. And ability to adapt multiple use cases, and the platform should be able to be flexible enough to do that. And how do we provide more efficient device and eSIM operations? Even find ways to automate the troubleshooting ahead of time. So the proactive troubleshooting between the connectivity and the device itself, that's also a critical element in this whole process. Then the end-to-end security, as I mentioned before, that will be various points in the process. The last one is the rule of trust. Well, with iSIM by default is already pretty secure. So it's a perfect component to use to address the rule of trust, enable the digital identity scenario as we move forward in this journey. So as there's also a lot of discussion about this in the market. It's the need for digital identity. It's the next level of digital identity, actually. What happens if a device talking to another device? What level of digital identity required to make sure everything's secure? What do we need to exchange information? How do you restrict information access between the devices, or between a service or application talking to a device? And of course, the user talking to another device, getting information, that's by default, that's required. And all those things are needed to enable the next level of IoT services moving forward. And this is a key area even in the automotives arena. Let's say there's two cars talking to each other. How do you know you're talking to the right car? How do you know you're getting the right level of information? And who is give the permission for that, right? So this will drive into the national digital ID scenario. And there's already countries that's doing this already, and they're basically the solutions based on SIM as the mobile ID. but the iSIM will take this to the next level from the security perspective. Of course, the GSMA also looking into the IoT safe as one of the items. That's also looking into the root of trust we talked about throughout this presentation today. And all this will help with enabling public and private e-services moving forward in our society. So some of the key takeaways, the benefits of eSIM, iSIM. This actually drives more connectivity moving forward because the remote provisioning criteria that's with this technology, and it will help move away from the physical SIM swap, so device can be onboarded pretty quickly, and the enterprises and subscribers can basically take a device and turn it on, and you basically have the connectivity. You don't have to go to a office to get your SIM or waiting for this anymore, because this is already attached to your device. With 5G, with the additional security on the network, with the volume, the speed, and the limited delay scenarios, this will enable additional services that we don't see today. And it's a perfect storm with 5G and iSIM adoption moving forward. And of course, the private network is also moving into this type of adoption. You'll see scenarios like you have two phone numbers, and one phone number might be used for your public network. The second phone number might be travel in and out of your different private network for enabling different services as we move forward. With the cost and all the benefits that Neil mentioned before, we see a faster adoption of iSIM. So the penetration of the iSIM is going to be a lot faster than eSIM. Another reason is because most of us in the last few years have been experienced with eSIM technology. So we're the CSPs are pretty much ready for that to adopt iSIM, because there won't be too much technical changes between eSIM and iSIM, except the form factor and how it's being delivered from the supply chain perspective. But overall, there's a lot of benefits for people to adopt to iSIM. And this is where Neil mentioned, right? The rate adoption might be 45% or more by 2025. They will be iSIM based. So with that said, I'll turn it over to Neil so he can provide some additional insights on the next couple items. Neil?
Sure. Thank you, Thomas. Yeah. So Thomas touched upon streamlining and automation as one of the key pain points which can be solved. The streamlining of operations, as well as if you look at in terms of supply chain perspective, there have been bottlenecks with respect to provisioning the device, making the SIM cards available at the same time, especially for IoT. What should be the model, right? Whether it put in a SIM card within the particular module, embed in the plastic SIM card, or use a eSIM, and how to be provision those if the devices are spread across the entire country, then how do you provision those? So obviously eSIM, iSIM streamlines a lot of these operations, and at the same time, since it is embedded and integrated within the SoC, it can also help with a higher level of security in terms of delivering of keys and also provisioning those very securely. So streamlining of operations for the massive deluge of IoT devices which are about to happen as 5G and the LPWAN networks proliferate over the next 4 to 5 years. I think the time to market is going to be critical for most of the device manufacturers, as well as for operators to launch newer services and in a very quickly and efficient way. So streamlining on the supply side of the SIM of provisioning, at the same time automating most of the services and processes for the provisioning, and moving to the cloud also is going to be very important in terms of streamlining the operations. At the same time, interoperability is going to be also very important. So how interoperable the different devices are, the SIMs are with the different eSIM management platforms. So there's a inherent need. Obviously, GSM is working on that, and all different partners are working with in terms of standardizing everything. But obviously, the interoperability testing is important, and how these different ecosystem stakeholders work together to help drive the interoperability and seamlessness of connectivity and provisioning for different eSIMs, iSIMs, and different devices is going to be very important. Once this all is taken care of, you will see significant revenue opportunities with eSIM and iSIM being integrated within the devices. Obviously, a lot of, as we saw, a lot of opportunities within different set of IoT devices, and also bringing up newer business models and newer opportunities for from roaming perspective as well, where earlier a lot of local operators, CSP, used to lose the revenue to the roaming operators. Now they can have a slice of that as well. And at the same time, private networks is a completely new opportunity, which Thomas was talking about. And obviously, for some players, that they might also gain control, like someone like Apple might gain control if they have integrated SIM within their SoCs. They can have more sticky service and can add on newer business models on top of it for in terms of services. So revenue growth opportunities are for entire ecosystem, not only just CSPs, but for enterprises as well as for device manufacturers, on what different potential it unlocks for adding connectivity to the newer devices, newer form factors. So I'd like to hand it over to Jeremy if we can take questions which I see are flowing in really fast.
This is excellent. Thank you, gentlemen, both of you. Yeah, we could probably do another hour just on the questions alone, but we'll get on as fast as we can and get to those. Questioner here, I'm going to tie two questions quite closely together, but coming to you, Neil, first. What might hold back the eSIM, iSIM growth? I'm getting a bit of noise on the microphone, so just in case that can be removed. Yeah, that's better. Great.
Awesome. Yeah, so very good question. I think obviously there are significant opportunities, but obviously the challenges which we can see is obviously, as I said, interoperability is one. How different ecosystem players, because there are multiple iSIM solution providers, there are multiple iSIM, eSIM enablement and management providers. So how they can interoperably work together, so it's seamless, and how those systems integrates flawlessly within operators, BSS, OSS, and how automated they are. So I think those are the key bottlenecks which could slow down the adoption of iSIM, eSIM from the CSP side of things. From the device manufacturer side of things, obviously support for different from different SoC players. We have seen some SoC players like Qualcomm already supporting iSIM within its Snapdragon 8 series, and now how fast they can scale down to 7 series, 6 series, and also their IoT portfolio of chipsets is going to be interesting. Obviously, there are some other chipset vendors which are also supporting in terms of IoT for iSIM within their chipsets. So that is going to be another challenge, and how fast these are adopted by chipset players and then by the device manufacturers as well to save on the bill of materials.
Okay. We've got a lot of questions to get through, so I'm going to ask each of you, if you can, to try and keep your answers to about 30 seconds to a minute. I know that's asking an awful lot on technical questions, but I'm going to put that out to you. Thomas, the question here from you: how do we lower the cost of IoT? I mean, it's quite a well-known problem for the industry as a whole. Questioner wants to know how to lower the cost of IoT. Is this a solution?
Yes, from the analysis that we did, one of the major area that can be improved, as we mentioned throughout the discussion, is the operations. How to streamline the operations, how to automate, how to digitize, and that will provide a lot of benefits. How to lower the IoT costs. Of course, by default, adopting iSIM, the device makers will seek that, will get that benefit ahead of time. But the rest of the industry, the CSPs and the enterprises, is how do we streamline, right? Because the physical cost of the device will be consistent regardless.
Question here for you, Neil. Niraj wants to ask, could you touch upon provisioning of iSIM and eSIM? Provisioning standards are in place for some time. Will the same mechanism be reused, or new methods, will they be needed? He's also asking, could you also add iSIM advantages over eSIM apart from security?
Yeah, so I'll take the first question first. So in terms of the eSIM management platforms, Thomas can correct me if I'm wrong, there is no change per se, because everything is GSMA standard and TCA compliant. And as a result, you can use the same management platform. Only thing is the iSIM enablement service, there might be some tweaks on how to identify the device and the iSIM, IUICC. But again, I don't see any significant changes in terms of eSIM management or RSP platforms over here. Everything is standardized and according to GSMA spec. And with the second question, as I said in the third slide, there are significant advantages apart from security. The biggest is for the device manufacturers is in terms of bill of materials, because a device manufacturer, even a module manufacturer, which is supplying a $2, $3 module, it can save almost 50 cents to 75 cents per module by just eliminating physical SIM card or eSIM, and in terms of space, board space savings as well for different device manufacturers.
That's really helpful. There's a related question here from Dean. I'm going to ask to Thomas, but Neil, if you've got anything you want to add at the end, please feel free. Dean is asking, what's the capital cost and ongoing operations costs of an UIC card, a regular SIM, software eSIM, and the iSIM/SoC? Which is best for a new IoT device? I can't help thinking that's kind of horses for courses, but I'll leave that to you, Thomas. How would you answer that?
Okay, so I'll try my best. With regular SIMs, we all know, right? The standard shipping cost and those things are involved, and the distribution of the SIMs, and plus installation of the SIM. Let's say I use a utility company as an example. Somebody have to plug in the SIM and deliver it. So all these adds up. But with eSIM and iSIM, the operations is going to be pretty similar because everything can be done remote, and that's the purpose, right, of eSIM and iSIM. But like Neil said, the benefit of the cost is the device itself. It will be cheaper for the device, and device can take those, turn into additional space for the battery, for example, on the device itself. So there's some cost savings definitely there, and also with 5G moving forward, there's a need for different scenarios how to manage the SIMs. We see the volume. How do you manage a volume of devices with iSIM because of adoption rate, and how do we improve from that from operations? And this is where we see there's a need for change, for improvement, or enhancement in the end-to-end workflow, let's say.
Fair enough. Neil, coming back to you, broad question. I'm going to ask for a quick answer on this one because we've got so many other questions coming in. Bob wants to know, does the current chipset shortage pose a problem? I mean, how is it affecting you?
That's a good question, but in fact, it won't, because now the iSIM, IUICC goes into the SoC, and there is no shortage in terms of SoC for now. In fact, if you look at the eSIM MFF2 might be in short supply and the costs are increasing for those. So Snapdragons and Apple chipsets are still available. TSMC is manufacturing them left and right. So
yeah. There's a security and trust question here that I know could probably take an entire webinar on its own. Thomas, I'm going to give you the unenviable task of trying to answer this one. Dean wants to know, does Nokia eSIMs support the trust framework concept from Georgia Tech University? DHS CISA is working with GTRI in establishing a trust mark for government root of trust. We've written about this on IoT now. There's more available on our website. How would you answer that in 30 seconds? Tough ask.
Yeah, right now the solution is based on the GSMA specification, the security requirements. We probably will looking into various standards that's outside GSMA as a next step. So maybe what we can do is we can have a detailed conversation with Dean afterwards.
Yeah, yeah. Neil, Sunil says, what is the actual difference between the EUICC and iSIM? As EUICC is also getting embedded in the device and will be able to be remotely provisioned.
Yeah, both can be remotely provisioned. Only thing, the difference is EUICC goes into right now MFF2 type form factor, like a soldered chip or a WLCSP form factor, whereas the IUICC goes directly into the SoC, like a Snapdragon 800 series, and so it's completely different in terms of where it sits and how it is being activated, and at the time of basically factory, basically,
yeah,
for the device.
I'm going to put this one to you, Thomas, but if you want to throw it over to Neil, then feel free. John says there's so much confusion in the market around roaming and eSIM. Permanent roaming is an issue in the US, and clearly it's an issue in other territories as well. Could you just discuss that briefly in light of what we've been saying this afternoon?
Yeah, it all depends on the implementation of the carriers and how the roaming will be addressed. But with iSIM, eSIM, there's opportunity for the subscriber not to use roaming anymore, right? For example, if you're traveling to a different region, you can pick up and subscribe to a new plan anytime, even on the plane if you have to. So this is all defined by the operators and the commercial agreement between them. It's not the technology anymore, right? The technology gives you the freedom how do you implement. So anything you'd like to add, Nia?
I think most of the devices now are unlocked anyways. At least the SIM card being, let me correct myself. So most of the eSIMs on iPhones, for example, are left unlocked. And so when you're traveling, you can obviously use eSIM to connect to the network, like you said, right? So even in US, you are seeing the same. So if you're traveling from anywhere else, I'm traveling from India to US, I can use eSIM on my iPhone to connect to buy a plan from AT&T or through via an MV, like GigSky, for example.
Thomas, a question for you, I think. Soren has asked, so what do you think about the attack vectors comparing iSIM with eSIM?
Yeah, I think of course, once the technology go into a chip, you make the solution a little bit more secure, right? It's more tamper-proof. And when you talk about eSIM, it's still physical SIM, a little SIM that's soldered onto the device. So there's, except it's inside the device, it's not portable, but somebody still can open up the device and take out the SIM, right? So however that's applied to the regular SIM, it apply to the eSIM. But iSIM changes the way the solution is actually addressed. Somebody had to break into the chip themselves, right?
Talking of breaking into chips, Prasad asks, who guarantees the security of hardware and when is the secret keys inserted to iSIM? Device building, he says, has chipset manufacturers, OEM, ODM, etc. Given the legal aspects to send the secret across oceans, provisioning, etc., what constraints do you see? Good question.
Yeah,
And,
I think it's a great question. Thomas, do you want to take that, or should I?
I'll try. So
thank you, Thomas.
So this is what I see. This actually disrupt the flow a little bit with iSIM. Some of those information might not be able to be preloaded into the so-called SIM in the chip anymore, right? So there will be a process change, and there will be legal and security change how things will be delivered to whom. So there could be a possibility the information get delivered to the module maker, whoever can load this thing onto the chip, or it can be delivered to a OEM or a device maker, for example, who's actually consolidating the module into their device. So the workflow of how things will be delivered and installed on the chip set related to especially with M2M devices. With consumer devices now, it's not quite a problem because because of the way that's been addressed today with Wi-Fi, everything else in the factory. But with the M2M, you need special way of installing this onto the device themselves. So,
Understood.
So things will change.
Thomas, thank you. We've got a couple of moments left and probably time for two quick questions and quick answers. Ahmed is asking a question that I'm going to put to you, Neil, which asks for a bit of blue sky thinking here. I love it. What kind of, in inverted commas, different V2X, that's vehicle to anything, infrastructure or otherwise, use cases will eSIM and iSIM help to enable? Neil.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I might think obviously car to car, car to traffic post, as well as traffic signals, and also to the control room. It can be, so there are different type of devices within the smart city infrastructure where any information from a car is required in terms of the car speed, or in terms of the distance between the cars, or any other sense of sort of communication between the cars. So it will be up to the smart city planners on how, and the auto OEMs, how they work together to add more cellular capabilities to different devices, or V2X capabilities.
Okay. And last question for you, Thomas. Short one. Is iSIM applicable to voice application? And I'm going to have to ask you for 30 seconds only.
Yes, so iSIM is the same as eSIM today, right? It's providing the connectivity. So from overall voice services, there won't be much difference.
Wow. Brief and to the point. Thank you, gentlemen. I'm amazed by the variety of questions from our audience. I shouldn't be, because they always surprise and delight me. Thank you, gentlemen. I'm afraid we are out of time. So to everybody watching, don't forget to bookmark our site at iot-now.com. Why? Because tomorrow you're going to be able to stream this webinar from the site, but also because there you can find news, videos, blogs, podcasts, and interviews. It just remains, therefore, for me to say a big thank you to our speakers who've bravely taken everything that you've thrown at them. They have been Neil Shah of Counterpoint Research. Thanks, Neil.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
And Nokia's Thomas Su. It's been a pleasure to have you too, Thomas.
Yeah, thank you for everybody's attendance.
It's been great. Most of all, ladies and gentlemen, we want to thank you. Thank you for joining us around the world. Keep safe. And from everyone here at IoT Now, bye for now.
Bye.
Take care.